Captain Marcus Reed had seen 3 wars, survived 4 alien encounters, and lost count of the bureaucratic nightmares that came with commanding humanity's most remote listening post. But nothing had prepared him for the cargo bay doors opening, to reveal a figure that made his blood run cold. She stood 7 feet tall, her skin a deep azure that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. 4 arms moved with predatory grace, each ending in hands that could crush steel. Her eyes burned amber, and when she spoke, her voice carried the authority of someone accustomed to absolute obedience. "I am Princess Veltara of the Nexori Empire," she announced, her translation device rendering her words in perfect, emotionless English. "Your species has violated 13 interstellar treaties. I have come to negotiate your surrender." Marcus almost laughed. Almost. The 40-person crew of Station Epsilon 7 surrendering to a single alien, no matter how imposing, seemed absurd. Then he noticed the scorch marks on her armor, the way her secondary arms trembled slightly. The neural inhibitor clamped around her neck. "Your Highness," came the voice of Admiral Corvin through the CUM system, "I trust you understand your position. One word from me, and that inhibitor floods your nervous system with enough pain to drive you insane. Captain Reed will provide you with quarters." Marcus felt his jaw clench. He'd been given 30 minutes' notice that a diplomatic prisoner would be arriving. They'd turned his personal quarters into a cell, complete with force fields and surveillance equipment. The message was clear. Keep the alien princess compliant by any means necessary. "Captain Reed," the Admiral continued, "the princess will be sharing your quarters. Ensure she remains comfortable." The implication hung in the air like a toxic cloud. Marcus had heard the stories about what happened to alien prisoners in the outer sectors. The Nexori Empire had been advancing through human space for 2 years, their technology superior, their warriors unstoppable. Desperate times called for desperate measures, the brass said. But looking at Veltara, Marcus saw something that made his stomach turn. Behind those burning amber eyes wasn't the cold calculation of a conqueror. It was the carefully controlled terror of someone who knew exactly what fate awaited her. "Understood, Admiral," Marcus replied, his voice steady despite the revulsion. Building inside him, "Princess, if you'll follow me." As they walked through the corridors of the station, Marcus noticed how the crew stared. Some with fear, others with something darker. The princess maintained her regal bearing, but he could see the way her hands clenched into fists, the slight hitch in her breathing. When they passed groups of men, his quarters had been transformed into a mockery of hospitality. The bed dominated the center of the room while surveillance cameras tracked every angle. A small alcove had been set aside for the princess, but it was clear where she was expected to sleep. Captain Veltara said once the door sealed behind them, "I want you to know that I understand the position your superiors have placed you in. I will not make this more difficult than it needs to be." Marcus stared at her, this proud being who was resigned to her fate. In that moment, he made a decision that would change everything. "Princess, I think there's been a misunderstanding. You'll be taking the bed. I'll use the floor." For the first time since her arrival, Veltara's composed mask slipped. "I don't think you understand what's expected of you." "I understand perfectly," Marcus replied, removing his service jacket and tossing it onto the chair. "And I'm choosing to ignore it. You're my guest, not my prisoner. Tomorrow, we'll figure out how to get you home." The surveillance room erupted into chaos as Admiral Corvin watched the feed from Marcus's quarters. The captain had not only defied direct orders, but had spent the night on the floor while the alien princess slept peacefully in his bed, untouched. "Get me Captain Reed. Now." Corvin's voice carried the kind of ice that preceded executions. Marcus stood at attention in the briefing room, his uniform crisp despite having slept on cold metal flooring. Around him, the station's senior staff avoided eye contact. Everyone knew what happened to officers who disobeyed orders regarding alien prisoners. "Captain, perhaps you misunderstood your instructions." Corvin's holographic projection loomed. Over the table, Princess Veltara is not a guest. She is a resource. Her cooperation is essential to preventing the Nexori from glassing another dozen human colonies. I understood perfectly, sir. Marcus's voice remained steady. I also understand that rape is still a war crime, regardless of the species involved. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Several officers shifted uncomfortably in their seats. It was one thing to know what was expected. It was another to hear it stated so bluntly. Captain Reed Corvin continued, "Your sentiment is admirable but irrelevant. The princess has information about Nexori military installations, troop movements, and technology that could save millions of human lives. If physical intimidation achieves that goal, so be it." Marcus felt his hands clench behind his back. And if it doesn't, if all we accomplish is proving that we're no better than the worst alien species we've encountered? The Admiral's expression shifted to something Marcus had never seen before. Not anger, but genuine confusion. "Captain, I'm beginning to question. Whether you're fit for command, the princess is our enemy. The princess is a prisoner of war entitled to basic dignity under both human and galactic law," Marcus shot back. "I won't be part of turning this station into a torture chamber, Lieutenant." Commander Elena Vasquez, the station's second-in-command, finally spoke up. "Sir, if I may, the princess has been unexpectedly compliant. She's answered basic questions about Nexori culture and has shown no signs of hostility toward the crew." Marcus felt a moment of gratitude toward his XO. Elena was walking a dangerous line by supporting him, even subtly. "Compliant because she knows what awaits her if she isn't," Corvin replied. "Captain Reed, you have 24 hours to extract useful intelligence from the princess. If you can't do it through conventional interrogation, then we'll proceed with alternative methods." The hologram flickered out, leaving the room in stunned silence. Marcus dismissed the staff, all except Elena. "You realize what you've done," she said once they were alone. "Corvin isn't bluffing. Tomorrow, they'll either relieve you of command or court-martial you for disobeying direct orders." "Then I have 24 hours to figure out another way," Marcus replied. "Elena, I need you to trust me on this. Princess isn't just some alien aristocrat. She's someone who's been preparing for this moment her entire life." "What do you mean?" Marcus pulled up the intelligence files on his terminal. "Look at her service record. Tora isn't just a princess. She's a military strategist who's been studying human tactics for 3 years. She speaks 7 human languages fluently, has a doctorate in xenopsychology, and has been advocating for peaceful coexistence between our species." Elena's eyes widened as she read. "She's been trying to prevent this war from the beginning." "Exactly. And now she's here in our custody, being treated like a common criminal. If word gets back to the Nexori Empire about what we're planning to do to their peace advocate, any hope of ending this war diplomatically dies with her dignity. So what's your plan?" Marcus stood and straightened his uniform. "I'm going to do something that apparently no one in high command has considered. I'm going to ask her what she needs to help us end this war." As he walked back toward his quarters, Marcus couldn't shake the feeling that he was about to cross a line that would change everything. But as he remembered the resigned terror in Veltara's eyes, he knew he had no choice. The door to his quarters slid open to reveal the princess. Sitting at his desk, her forearms working on what appeared to be mathematical equations, she looked up as he entered, her amber eyes reflecting a mixture of hope and wariness.
"Captain Reed," she said.
"I believe we need to talk." Princess Veltara's 4 hands moved across Marcus's terminal with impossible speed, pulling up star charts, tactical displays, and intelligence reports that should have been far beyond her security clearance. The neural inhibitor around her neck pulsed with each data access, but she ignored the pain. "How are you accessing classified files?" Marcus asked, though his tone carried more curiosity than accusation. "Your security protocols are designed to keep humans out, not Nexori," she replied without looking up from the screen. "Captain, what I'm about to show you will likely result in both our deaths, but it's the only way to save both our species." The main display shifted to show a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. Nexori territory glowed in blue, human space in amber, and between them, a vast expanse of crimson that seemed to pulse with malevolent energy. "The Devourers," Veltara said, her voice dropping to barely above a whisper. "They consume everything. In their path, worlds, stars, entire civilizations. They've been dormant for 10,000 years, but our war has awakened them. Marcus felt his blood chill. That's impossible. Our xenobiologists have never detected any species matching that description, because they exist in a different dimensional layer, Veltara explained, her secondary arms highlighting sections of the map. Every energy weapon discharge, every nuclear detonation, every antimatter explosion in our war creates dimensional fractures. We're literally tearing holes in reality. The display zoomed in on a section of space where several recent battles had taken place. Marcus could see the telltale signs of dimensional distortion, areas where space itself seemed to bend and twist. The Nixori High Council sent me here not as a prisoner, but as a messenger, Veltora continued. My capture was staged. We needed a way to communicate with human leadership without appearing weak to either of our populations. Marcus sank into his chair, the implications hitting him like a physical blow. You're saying this entire war has been orchestrated? Not orchestrated, but manipulated. The Devourers influence minds across dimensional barriers. They've been feeding our mutual hatred, ensuring that we continue fighting until we tear enough holes in reality for them to break through. She pulled up communications logs that Marcus recognized as his own station's transmissions. Admiral Corvin's orders too? Use me as you see fit. That's not tactical necessity, Captain. That's the influence of beings who feed on suffering and violence. Marcus stood abruptly, pacing to the viewport that showed the starfield beyond. If this is true, then why haven't your people simply contacted us directly? Why this elaborate charade? Because the Devourer's influence grows stronger with proximity to dimensional fractures, Veltara said. You're Admiral Corvin, my own high. Commander Nexus, dozens of leaders on both sides have been compromised. They can't see past the need for violence, but you can. Altera's amber eyes met his, and for the first time Marcus saw something that looked remarkably like hope. We can. Humans and Nexori, who are naturally resistant to dimensional influence? It's why you chose to defy your orders last night instead of following them. It's why I've been able to maintain my mission focus, despite the neural inhibitor. Marcus felt pieces clicking together in his mind. The inhibitor isn't just to control you. It's to prevent you from being influenced by the Devourers. Precisely. And your natural resistance is why my people chose this station for my capture. We need individuals who can think clearly to coordinate our response. The terminal chimed with an incoming priority message. Marcus's blood ran cold as he recognized Admiral Corvin's call sign. Princess, we're out of time. Corvin's sending a special operations team to take you to a secure facility.
Ow.
They'll be here in 6 hours. Tara's expression hardened. Then we have 6 hours to begin the real war. Captain, I need you to trust me completely. What I'm about to ask you to do will be seen as treason by your superiors. I'm listening. I need you to help me contact the Nexori Resistance Fleet. They're hidden in the Kepler Nebula, waiting for my signal. Together we can begin coordinating strikes against the dimensional fractures before the Devourers break through. Marcus looked at this alien princess who had arrived as his prisoner, and was now asking him to commit the ultimate betrayal of his own species. But as he remembered the resigned terror in her eyes when she'd first arrived, and compared it to the fierce determination he saw now, he realized the choice had already been made. What do you need me to do? Veltara smiled, and for the first time, Marcus saw the being she truly was beneath the royal facade. Help me save both our worlds, Captain. Help me stop the real enemy before it's too late. The station's communication array hummed with power as Marcus and Veltara worked to establish contact with the Nexori Resistance Fleet. Every few minutes, Marcus glanced at the tactical display showing Admiral Corvin's special operations ship approaching their position. For hours until arrival. Signal established, Veltara announced, her primary hands dancing across the controls while her secondary arms worked on encryption protocols. Captain, meet High Commander Rylan of the Nexori Resistance Fleet. The holographic projector shimmered to life, revealing a Nexori warrior whose battle-scarred carapace told the story of a lifetime of conflict. Unlike Veltara's azure skin, his was deep emerald, and his amber eyes held the weight of command decisions made in impossible circumstances. Princess Veltara Rylan's voice carried relief and urgency in equal measure. We detected massive, Dimensional instabilities in your sector. The Devourers are closer to breakthrough than we anticipated. How long do we have? Marcus asked, stepping into the hologram's field of view. Ryland's expression shifted to surprise, then calculation. You must be Captain Reed. The princess spoke highly of your resistance to dimensional influence. To answer your question, our scientists estimate 72 hours before the first Devourer scouts break through into our reality. Marcus felt his world tilt. 3 days to prevent the end of civilization as we know it. Less than that, Veltara interjected, pulling up a new display. Admiral Corvin's fleet is mobilizing for a massive assault on the Nexori core worlds. If that battle takes place, the dimensional fractures will expand exponentially. Then we stop it, Marcus said, with more confidence than he felt. Commander. Ryland, what assets do you have available? The hologram shifted to show the Nexori resistance fleet. 50 ships, each one a marvel of technology that made human vessels look primitive by comparison. But Marcus noticed something else in the display. Those are human weapon signatures, he said, pointing to several of the larger vessels. Correct, Ryland confirmed. We've been working with human resistance cells for months. Captain Maria Santos of the UEN Defiant, Commander Yuki Tanaka of the Yamato, and a dozen other officers who recognized the same inconsistencies in their orders that you did. Marcus felt a surge of hope. How many humans are part of this alliance? Approximately 2,000 across 37 ships, Veltara replied. All individuals who showed natural resistance to Devourer influence, all branded as traitors by their respective governments. A new alarm sounded on the station's bridge. Lieutenant Commander Elena Vasquez's voice crackled through the comm system. Captain, we're detecting massive energy signatures from the Corvin fleet. They're powering up their main weapons. Time to arrival? Marcus asked. 2 hours, but Captain. We're not coming to retrieve the princess. They're coming to destroy the station. Marcus felt his blood run cold. You're going to eliminate all witnesses, worse, Veltara said, her voice grim. They're going to use the station's destruction as justification for their assault on the Nexori core worlds. One massive dimensional fracture to open the door for the Devourers. Then we leave. Now. Marcus turned to Ryland. Commander, can your fleet provide escort for Station Epsilon 7? Negative. The station's engines are designed for orbital corrections. Not interstellar travel, but we can evacuate your crew. No, Marcus said firmly. We're not abandoning the station. Veltara, is there another way? The princess's 4 hands worked furiously across multiple interfaces. There is, but it requires something that's never been attempted before. A joint human-Nexori operation to seal the dimensional fractures. Explain. The fractures can be sealed, but only by creating a massive energy discharge at precise coordinates. Requires perfect synchronization between human and Nexori technology. And it must be done from within the fracture itself. Marcus understood immediately. A suicide mission. Not necessarily, Ryland interjected. Our scientists have developed a theory that consciousness itself can influence dimensional barriers. The mission is carried out by individuals with strong enough resistance to devour influence. They might be able to maintain coherence within the fracture long enough to complete the task. How many people would we need? 2, Veltara said quietly. 1 human, 1 Nexori. Perfect synchronization of thought and action. The implications hung heavy in the air. Marcus looked at the alien princess who had become his unlikely ally. This being who had risked everything to save both their species. In her amber eyes, he saw the same determination that had driven him to defy his orders. Princess, he said formally, I accept your proposal. Captain Reed, she replied, her voice carrying the weight of royal authority. I accept your partnership. On the holographic display, Commander Ryland nodded approvingly. The alliance is sealed. Now we prepare for war against the real enemy. As alarms continued to sound throughout the station, Marcus realized that in the span of 24 hours, he had gone from reluctant captor to willing ally, to partner in humanity's most desperate gambit. And somehow it felt like the most natural progression in the universe. The station's hangar bay had been transformed. into a command center where human and Nexori technology interfaced in ways that should have been impossible. Marcus watched as Veltara worked alongside his engineering team, her forearms allowing her to operate multiple systems simultaneously while explaining the theoretical principles behind dimensional manipulation. The key is harmonic resonance, she explained to Chief Engineer Rodriguez, whose initial terror at working with an alien had given way to professional fascination. Human quantum processors operate on binary logic, while Nexori systems use quantum superposition. When synchronized, they create a hybrid consciousness interface. Rodriguez nodded, though Marcus could see the strain on his face as he tried to process concepts that challenged everything he'd learned about physics. So we're essentially creating a shared mind between human and Nexori technology. More than that, Veltara replied. We're creating a shared consciousness between human and Nexori operators. Captain Reed and I will be neurally linked during the mission. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. Neurally linked how? Through quantum entanglement of our neural patterns, Veltara explained matter-of-factly. Your thoughts will be my thoughts. Your emotions, my emotions. It's the only way to achieve the perfect synchronization required to seal the dimensional fractures. And the risks? Complete loss of individual identity, permanent neurological damage, or death. She replied with characteristic directness. The Nexori have a saying, consciousness shared is consciousness preserved. But consciousness merged is consciousness lost. Lieutenant Commander Alina Vasquez approached the group, her expression grim. Captain, we've received updates from the Resistance Fleet. Admiral Corvin's forces have begun their assault on the Nexori core worlds. Dimensional fractures are expanding rapidly. Studied the tactical display showing the spreading chaos. Energy discharge, each destroyed ship, each dying world contributed to the growing tears in reality. Time to devour a breakthrough? Hours, Veltara said quietly, less if the current rate of expansion continues. Then we accelerate our timeline, Marcus decided. How long until the consciousness interface is ready? 6 hours for basic functionality, Rodriguez replied. But Captain, we're dealing with technology that's completely theoretical. We have no idea if it will work, and if it fails. If it fails, we all die anyway when the devourers break through. Marcus finished. Continue the work. A new voice interrupted the discussion. Captain Reed, you're needed on the bridge. Marcus turned to find Commander Rylan materializing through the Nexori transport system, his imposing form causing several human crew members to reach for their weapons reflexively. Stand down, Marcus ordered. Commander, I thought you were maintaining position with the fleet. Change of plans, Rylan replied grimly. We've detected massive energy signatures approaching your position. Not Admiral Corvin's fleet something? Else, Marcus felt his blood chill. Devourers, Scouts Veltara confirmed, her amber eyes reflecting genuine fear for the first time since her arrival. They're testing our reality's stability. If they find us here, they'll target the station specifically. Because you and the princess represent the greatest threat to their plans, Rylan explained. Individuals with natural resistance to their influence, working together to seal the fractures. They'll do anything to stop you. Marcus looked around the hangar at his crew working frantically to prepare technology that might not even function. How long until they arrive? For hours, Rylan replied. The same time Admiral Corvin's forces reach your position? Perfect, Marcus said with bitter irony. A three-way battle for the fate of reality itself. Veltara stepped closer to Marcus, her voice dropping to a whisper. Captain, there's something else. The neurolinquence, it's established, it can't be broken. We'll remain connected for the rest of our lives. Marcus studied her face, seeing the implications she wasn't stating directly. You're saying that? If we survive this, we'll be permanently bonded in ways that transcend species, culture, and physical form, she confirmed. Your human concept of marriage would be a crude approximation of what we're about to undertake. The weight of the decision settled on Marcus's shoulders. Not just the fate of two civilizations, but the potential union of two beings from different worlds. He looked at this alien princess who had become his ally, his partner, and now potentially something more. "Princess," he said formally, "are you prepared for that possibility?" "Captain Reed," she replied, her voice carrying an emotion he couldn't quite identify. "I've been prepared for it since the moment you chose to treat me with dignity instead of following your orders. The question is whether you're prepared for it." Marcus thought about the past 24 hours, about the choices that had led him to this moment. About the woman that's what she was. Regardless of species, who had trusted him with the truth about the real enemy. About the decision to stand together against forces that threatened everything they held dear. "I'm prepared," he said. Simply around them, the frantic preparations continued. But in that moment, Marcus felt a sense of peace he hadn't experienced since the war began. Whatever happened in the next few hours, they would face it together. The first Devourer scout phased into reality with a sound like the universe screaming. Marcus watched from the station's bridge as space itself twisted around the creature, its form shifting between dimensions in ways that made his eyes water to observe directly. "All defensive systems online," Alina reported, her voice tight with controlled terror. "But Captain, our weapons are designed for conventional warfare. This thing exists in multiple dimensions simultaneously." The scout measured nearly a kilometer. In length, its surface rippling with energies that seemed to devour light itself. Tendrils of pure darkness reached out from its core. Testing the fabric of reality around Station Epsilon 7. "It's scanning for the dimensional manipulation equipment," Veltara announced from her position at the hybrid control station. "If it identifies the consciousness interface, it will call for reinforcements." Marcus activated the station-wide communication system. "All hands, this is the captain. We are under attack by hostile forces that threaten the existence of our reality. I know this sounds impossible, but I need everyone to trust me. Fight for your lives. Fight for your families. Fight for the future of humanity." The Devourer scout's attention suddenly focused on the station with predatory intensity. Marcus felt a pressure against his mind, alien thoughts trying to worm their way into his consciousness. Beside him, Veltara groaned as the neural inhibitor around her neck sparked and overloaded. "It's trying to dominate our minds," she said through gritted teeth. "Captain, we need to activate the consciousness interface now, before it can fully manifest in our dimension." "The system isn't ready," Rodriguez protested over the comm. "We need at least 2 more hours for full calibration." "We don't have to." "Hours," Marcus replied, watching as the scout's tendrils began probing the station's hull. Where they touched, the metal aged centuries in seconds. Crumbling to dust, new alarms sounded as Admiral Corvin's fleet dropped out of hyperspace. 50 human vessels, their weapons already charging for an assault on the station. Marcus realized, with growing horror, that they were caught between 2 enemies, each capable of destroying them. "Princess," he said urgently, "can we use the partial interface?" "The risks are exponentially higher," she replied, her 4 hands working frantically to bring the hybrid systems online. Without full calibration, the Neuralink might not hold during dimensional transition. We could lose ourselves completely. Better than letting the Devourers break through, Marcus decided. Do it. The consciousness interface hummed to life. Its hybrid human Nexori technology, creating patterns of light that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Marcus felt the neural connectors descend from the ceiling, their crystalline tips designed to interface directly with his brain. Captain Veltara said, her voice carrying an emotion he'd never heard from her before. "I need you to know something. Before we link, ga-da-da-da-da. Among my people, what we're about to do is considered the most sacred bond possible. More intimate than mating, more permanent than marriage. We will share not just thoughts, but souls." Marcus met her amber eyes, seeing in them the same determination that had driven him to defy his orders. "I understand. I'm ready." The neural connectors activated simultaneously, and Marcus felt his consciousness expand beyond the boundaries of his individual self. Suddenly he was aware of Veltara's thoughts, her memories, her fears and hopes. He experienced her childhood on the Nexori homeworld, Kea, her training as a military strategist, her desperate mission to prevent the war that would doom both species. And she experienced his memories in return. His youth on Earth, his rise through the ranks of the fleet, his horror at the orders he'd been given regarding her treatment. More than that, she felt his growing respect for her, his admiration for her courage, and something deeper that he'd barely acknowledged to himself. "I can feel your mind," she said, her voice now carrying harmonics that resonated in dimensions beyond normal hearing. "Your strength, your compassion, your determination to protect innocent life, regardless of species." "And I can feel yours," Marcus replied, his own voice taking on the same multidimensional quality. "Your sacrifice, your loneliness, your desperate hope that two species could find peace instead of mutual destruction." The Devourer Scout's attack intensified, its tendrils punching through the station's hull in multiple locations. At the same time, Admiral Corvin's fleet opened fire, their weapons designed to destroy the station and everyone aboard it. But Marcus and Veltara were no longer separate beings. Their consciousness had merged into something greater than the sum of its parts, a hybrid intelligence that could perceive and manipulate dimensional barriers. Together, they reached out with their shared will and began to seal the fractures that allowed the Devourer Scout to manifest in their reality. The effect was immediate. The Scout's form began to destabilize, its tendrils withdrawing as the dimensional barriers strengthened. But the effort was enormous, and Marcus felt their shared consciousness beginning to fragment under the strain. "Hold together, Veltara's voice whispered in his mind. "We are one now. We're stronger together than apart." "Always," Marcus replied, and meant it with every fiber of his being. Together, he pushed the Devourer Scout back through the dimensional barriers, sealing the fractures behind it. The victory was temporary, but it bought them precious time. As the immediate threat receded, Marcus became aware of their physical forms again. He was still on the bridge of Station Epsilon 7, still connected to Veltara through the consciousness interface. But something fundamental had changed. They were no longer simply allies. They were bonded in ways that transcended species, united in purpose and consciousness. And as Admiral Corvin's fleet closed in for the final assault, Marcus knew that whatever happened next, they would face it as one. The neural link between Marcus and Veltara had fundamentally altered their perception of reality. Through their shared consciousness, they could perceive Admiral Corvin's fleet approaching not just as physical ships, but as nodes of dimensional distortion created by the Devourer influence on the crews. "The Admiral's flagship," Veltara said, her voice harmonizing with Marcus's thoughts in a way that made speaking almost unnecessary. "Look at the energy signature around it." Marcus could see what she meant. The ship was surrounded by a dark aura that seemed to consume light, identical to the emanations from the Devourer Scout. "He's not just influenced, he's become a conduit. The neural inhibitor I wore," Veltara continued, "it wasn't just to control me. It was to protect me from becoming what he's become. The Devourers can't fully possess individuals with natural resistance, but they can create willing servants from those who embrace violence." Through their link, Marcus accessed Veltara's memories of the inhibitor's true purpose. It had been designed by Nexori scientists who understood the Devourer threat, a safeguard against the dimensional influence that had corrupted so many leaders on both sides. Captain Elena's voice cut through their shared contemplation. "Admiral Corvin is requesting communication. He says if you don't respond, he'll order the fleet to fire on the station." Marcus activated the main view screen, and Admiral Corvin's image appeared. But the man who had once been Marcus's commanding officer was now something else entirely. His eyes held the same dark emptiness as the Devourer Scout, and when he spoke, his voice carried harmonics that existed in multiple dimensions. "Captain," Reed Corvan said, his tone carrying an authority that seemed to press against Marcus's mind, "you have committed treason against humanity by allying with the enemy. Surrender the alien princess immediately, or face the consequences." Admiral Marcus replied, his voice steady, despite the pressure he felt against his thoughts. "The princess is not our enemy. The real enemy is the force that's been influencing both our species to destroy each other." Corvin's expression shifted to something that might have been amusement. "The Nexoria filled your head with lies, Captain. There is no greater threat." There is only the need to eliminate the alien menace before they can destroy humanity. Through the neural link, Marcus felt Veltara's recognition of the speech patterns. "He's not speaking his own words," she said in their shared consciousness. "That's devourer doctrine, translated into human language concepts." Admiral Marcus continued, "I've seen the evidence, the dimensional fractures, the energy signatures, the way this war has been manipulated from the beginning. You're not serving humanity. You're serving something that wants to consume everything we've built." "Enough," Corvin snapped, his image flickering with dimensional instability. "You have 30 seconds to surrender the princess, or I will demonstrate." The full power of humanity's righteous fury. The communication cut off, leaving Marcus and Veltara alone on the bridge with the approaching fleet. Through their link, they could sense the crews of those ships, their minds clouded by the same influence that had consumed Corvin. 2,000 people, Marcus said aloud, feeling the weight of command in ways he'd never experienced before.
"Oh."
Of them following orders from a man who's no longer human. "We can save them," Veltara said, her forehands moving across the hybrid control systems. The consciousness interface isn't just four-dimensional manipulation. It can be used to break devourer influence on individual minds. At what cost? "We would need to extend our neural link to encompass the entire fleet," she explained. 2,000 minds, all connected to ours simultaneously. The strain might destroy our individual consciousness entirely. Marcus considered the implications. Through their bond, he could feel Veltara's willingness to make that sacrifice. Her determination to save lives, even at the cost of their own identity. It was a mirror of his own feelings, a reflection of the values that had drawn them together. "There's another option," he said, an idea forming in their shared consciousness. "We don't try to save everyone at once. We target the command structure, break the influence on the senior officers. If we can free them from devourer control, they can help us reach the rest of their crews." "Dangerous," Veltara replied. "We fail. We'll have revealed our capabilities to the enemy. They'll adapt their influence to counter our techniques. And if we succeed, we'll have proven that the bond between our species is stronger than the force trying to destroy us." Marcus looked at the approaching fleet, at the countdown timer showing less than 10 minutes until weapons range. Through the neural link, he felt Veltara's absolute trust in his judgment, her confidence in their shared abilities. "Do it," he decided. "Target Admiral Corvin first. If we can break his conditioning, the rest of the fleet might stand down." "Captain," Veltara said, her voice carrying the formal tone of a military officer. "It has been an honor to serve alongside you, Princess," Marcus replied. "It has been an honor to bond with you." Together, they reached out through the consciousness. Interface, their merged awareness extending across space toward Admiral Corvin's flagship. The process was unlike anything either had experienced, simultaneously intimate and vast, personal and cosmic. Through the neural link, they touched Corvin's mind and recoiled at what they found. The Admiral's consciousness had been hollowed out, his memories and personality replaced by something alien and hungry. But beneath the devourer influence, fragments of the man he'd once been still remained. "He's still in there," Veltara whispered in their shared thoughts. "Buried deep, but still fighting." Marcus felt the echo of his former commander's will, the dedication to duty and protection of human life that had made Corvin a respected leader. Using that as an anchor, they began the delicate process of separating the man from the influence that had consumed him. The devourer presence in Corvin's mind lashed out at their intrusion, its alien thoughts burning like acid against their consciousness. But their bond held, human determination and Nexori wisdom combining to create something stronger than either could achieve alone. Admiral Marcus spoke directly into Corvin's mind. "Remember your oath. Remember why you joined the fleet. Remember the lives you swore to protect." The response was immediate and violent. Corvin's fleet accelerated toward the station, weapons powering up for a devastating assault. But Marcus and Veltara pressed deeper, finding the core of who Corvin had been before the influence took hold. "You have a daughter," Veltara added, accessing memories that the devourer influence had tried to bury. "Anna. She's 8 years old, and she draws pictures of spaceships because she wants to be like her father." For a moment, the attacking fleet hesitated. Through their link, Marcus and Veltara felt Corvin's consciousness struggling to surface, fighting against the alien will that had dominated him for months. Anna Corvin's voice whispered across the dimensions, carrying the pain of a father who had forgotten his child. "What have I done?" The Devourer influence made one final attempt to reassert control, but it was too late. Corvin's love for his daughter, his genuine desire to protect humanity, proved stronger than the alien manipulation. The dark presence was expelled from his mind with a psychic scream that reverberated through multiple dimensions. "All ships, cease fire." Corvin's voice crackled across the fleet communications, his tone carrying the authority of a man who had reclaimed his soul. "This is Admiral Corvin. I am resuming command and ordering an immediate stand-down." The effect rippled through the fleet as other officers, freed from the influence that had clouded their judgment, began to remember their true purpose. Within minutes, the attacking formation had transformed into a protective escort around station. Epsilon 7, Captain Reed. Corvin's voice came over the station's communication system. "I owe you an apology and an explanation. The things I ordered you to do, that wasn't me. Not really." "Understood, Admiral," Marcus replied, though he maintained the neural link with Veltara. "We have bigger problems than past orders. The Devourers are preparing for a full-scale invasion." "Then we'd better get to work," Corvin said, his tone carrying the decisiveness that had made him a respected commander. "Princess Veltara, I believe you and I need to have a very different conversation than the one we planned." As the immediate crisis passed, Marcus became aware of the permanent change in his relationship with Veltara. The neural link had stabilized into something deeper than mere connection. They were truly bonded now, their consciousness intertwined in ways that transcended individual identity. "No regrets?" Veltara asked in their shared thoughts. "None," Marcus replied, and meant it completely. "This is what we were meant to do. This is who we were meant to become." The alliance between human and Nexori forces had transformed Station Epsilon 7 into the galaxy's most unlikely command center. In the main conference room, Admiral Corvin sat across from Princess Veltara, his expression a mixture of shame and determination as he reviewed the intelligence she had provided. "The scale of manipulation is staggering," Corvin said, his voice heavy with the weight of actions he'd taken while under Devourer influence. "Both our species have been dancing to their tune for years." Marcus stood beside Veltara, their neural link allowing them to share the burden of translating complex Nexori concepts into human understanding. Through their bond, he could feel her exhaustion. Maintaining the consciousness interface while coordinating with multiple fleets was taking its toll. "The dimensional fractures are accelerating," Commander Rylan reported via hologram from the Nexori fleet. "Our scientists estimate we have less than 8 hours before the Devourers achieve full manifestation in our reality." "What exactly does that mean?" Admiral Corvin asked. Veltara's 4 hands moved across the display, showing a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy, with growing red zones marking areas of dimensional instability. "It means they'll no longer need to influence our minds to destroy us. They'll be able to devour our reality directly." "How many are we talking about?" Marcus asked, though through their link he could already sense Veltara's answer. "Millions," she replied aloud for the benefit of the others. "The Devourers are not a single species, but a collective consciousness that consumes entire dimensional layers. What we've been fighting are merely scouts." The room fell silent as the implications sank in. Admiral Corvin was the first to speak. "What do we need to do to stop them? We need to seal every dimensional fracture simultaneously," Marcus explained, his voice harmonizing with Veltara's thoughts. "The consciousness interface can be expanded to encompass multiple ship crews, creating a network of bonded human Nexori pairs." "You're talking about neural linking thousands of individuals," Corvin said. "The risks are acceptable compared to the alternative," Veltara interrupted. "Admiral, your species has a concept called acceptable losses. This is a situation where the acceptable loss is our individual consciousness in exchange for the survival of both civilizations." Through their bond, Marcus felt Veltara's deeper concern. The neural linking process would create permanent bonds between humans and Nexori, fundamentally altering both species forever. There would be no going back to the way things were. There's something else, Marcus said, voicing their shared realization. The bonds won't just be tactical, they'll be personal. Every human Ixori pair that links will become connected in ways that transcend individual identity. Like you and the princess, Corvin observed. Exactly like us, Marcus confirmed. But on a scale involving thousands of individuals from both species. Lieutenant Commander Elena Vasquez, who had been silent throughout the briefing, finally spoke. Up, Captain. Are you asking us to essentially merge our species? I'm asking you to save them, Marcus replied. Both of them. The alternative is extinction. The communication system chimed with an incoming priority message. The view screen activated to show Captain Maria Santos of the human resistance vessel. You and defiant, her face grim with urgency. Admiral, we're detecting massive dimensional distortions throughout the galaxy, she reported. The Devourers aren't waiting for full manifestation. They're beginning their assault on major population centers. The tactical display shifted to show real-time footage from Earth, the Nexori homeworld, and dozens of other planets. Massive tiers. In space were opening above major cities, and through them, creatures of living darkness were beginning to emerge. How long until they reach the surface? Corvin asked. 2 hours for the first wave, Santos replied. Admiral, we need to act now. Marcus felt Veltara's determination surge through their bond. Oh! We begin the mass neural linking immediately, she decided. Every willing volunteer from both fleets, Princess Corvin said formally. You're asking our people to sacrifice their individual identity for the greater good. That's not a decision I can make for them. Then we ask them to choose, Marcus replied. We explain the stakes, the risks, and the consequences. Then we let them decide whether the survival of both species is worth the sacrifice. Admiral Corvin stood, his expression carrying the weight of command decisions that would determine the fate of civilization. All hands. This is Admiral Corvin. Report to your stations for a fleet-wide announcement. What I'm about to tell you will change everything. As the crew mobilized throughout the station and the surrounding fleets, Marcus and Veltara prepared for the most important speech of their lives. Through their neural link, they shared not just thoughts, but the profound understanding that they were asking their people to undergo. The same transformation that had bonded them together. No pressure, Marcus said with dark humor. None at all, Veltara replied, her thoughts carrying the equivalent of a smile. Just the future of all sentient life in the galaxy. Together, they stepped forward to address the combined human and Nexori fleets. Their bonds serving as living proof that what they were asking was not just possible, but necessary for survival. The combined fleets of humanity and the Nexori resistance had never attempted joint communication before. As Marcus and Veltara stood before the transmission array, their neural link allowed them to address both species simultaneously. Their words translated not just linguistically, but conceptually. People of Earth and children of Nexori, Marcus began, his voice carrying across dozens of ships and thousands of crew members. We stand at the threshold of extinction. It's not death by war, but consumption by forces that exist beyond our reality. Through their bond, Veltara added, the enemy we face cannot be defeated by weapons or strategy. They feed on the dimensional fractures created by our conflict, growing stronger with every battle we fight. The view screen displayed the real-time footage from attacked worlds. Cities consumed by living darkness, populations fleeing from creatures that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The scope of the threat was undeniable. The only way to stop them is to seal the dimensional fractures, Marcus continued. But this requires perfect synchronization between human and Nexori consciousness. It requires volunteers to undergo neural linking permanent bonding between individuals from both species. You're asking us to give up our humanity, came a voice from the UE in Defiant. Captain Santos's crew had connected to the communication network, their faces showing the strain of processing impossible concepts. No, Veltara replied, her voice carrying the authority of royal blood, but the warmth of someone who had chosen to sacrifice everything for others. We're asking you to expand it, to become more than human, more than Nexori, to become something that can stand against forces that threaten all life. What does the bonding process actually involve? Asked Commander Yuki Tanaka from the Yamato, her pragmatic nature cutting through the emotional weight of the moment. Marcus felt Veltara's memories flood through their link as she accessed the scientific data. Neural linking creates a shared consciousness between two individuals. You retain your individual memories and personality, but you also gain access to your partner's thoughts, emotions, and abilities. The process is irreversible, Marcus added. Honestly, once bonded, you'll be connected for life. You'll share not just tactical awareness, but emotional intimacy beyond anything either species has experienced. And if we refuse, came another voice from the human fleet, then we all die. Admiral Corvin said bluntly, I've seen what devourer influence does to the mind. I've experienced what it feels like to have your consciousness hollowed out and replaced. The bonding process is the only defense we have. Through their neural link, Marcus and Veltara could sense the emotional turmoil spreading through both fleets. Fear, uncertainty, and desperate hope warred in the minds of thousands of crew members as they contemplated a choice that would fundamentally alter their existence. I'll do it, came a voice from the Nexori fleet. Commander Ryland stepped forward, his battle-scarred form radiating determination. I've spent my life fighting to protect my people. Bonding with a human gives me the power to save them, then I accept. I'll be his partner, announced Chief Engineer Rodriguez from Station Epsilon 7. I've worked with Princess Veltara for the past day. I've seen what human Nexori cooperation can accomplish. I'm ready to take that to the next level. Effect rippled through both fleets as other volunteers stepped forward. Not everyone was willing. Fear and prejudice ran deep in both species. But enough individuals volunteered to create a network of bonded pairs throughout the combined forces. Captain Elena Vasquez said quietly, the consciousness interface is showing massive dimensional instabilities. We're running out of time. Marcus looked at the tactical display showing devourer creatures breaking through dimensional barriers across the galaxy. Entire star systems were going dark as the entities consumed everything in their path. All volunteers, report to your designated bonding stations, Marcus announced. We begin the neural linking process immediately. As the crews mobilized, Marcus and Veltara prepared to oversee the most audacious experiment in the history of either species. Through their bond, they shared the weight of responsibility, not just for the mission's success, but for the fundamental transformation of both civilizations. Are we doing the right thing? Marcus asked, in their shared consciousness. We're doing the only thing, Veltara replied. Perhaps that's what right means in circumstances like these. The bonding chambers throughout the fleet hummed to life as human and Nexori volunteers prepared to undergo the same transformation that had united Marcus and Veltara. Each pair would become a single consciousness with dual bodies, a hybrid entity capable of manipulating dimensional barriers in ways that neither species could achieve alone. Beginning neural linking in 60 seconds. Announced the fleet-wide communication system. Marcus felt Veltara's hand slip into his. Their different anatomies somehow fitting together perfectly. Through their bond, he experienced her absolute conviction that they were about to witness the birth of something greater than either species could have imagined. Ready? He asked. Ready, she confirmed. Together, they activated the consciousness interface for the largest neural linking experiment in galactic history, knowing that in the next few minutes the definitions of human and Nexori would become obsolete. The neural linking process began with a harmony that transcended sound, a resonance that existed in dimensions beyond normal perception. Throughout the combined fleets, human and Nexori volunteers felt their consciousness expand as their minds merged with their chosen partners. Marcus and Veltara, their bond now serving as the central node for the entire network, experienced the moment of unity from thousands of perspectives simultaneously. Through their connection, they felt Commander Ryland's warrior spirit merging with Chief Engineer Rodriguez's technical precision, Captain Santos's tactical brilliance combining with Nexori strategist Kethmer's dimensional awareness, and dozens of other unions that created something unprecedented in galactic history. The network is stable, announced the consciousness interface, its voice now carrying harmonics from both species. All bonded pairs are successfully linked. Through the expanded network, Marcus could perceive the Devourer assault on multiple worlds with clarity that was both terrifying and empowering. The creatures weren't just consuming matter, they were unraveling the fundamental structure of reality itself, feeding on the dimensional barriers that kept different layers of existence separate. Dimensional fractures located, Veltara announced, her voice now speaking for the entire network. Beginning synchronization for mass sealing protocol. The bonded pairs throughout the fleet moved with perfect coordination, their shared consciousness allowing them to operate as a single entity with thousands of bodies. Human ships and Nexori vessels worked in perfect harmony, their crews no longer seeing species differences, but recognizing the unified purpose that drove them all. First wave of fractures sealed, reported the Santos Kethmar pair from the UEN Defiant. Devourer entities are being forced back into their dimensional layer. But the victory was temporary. Through the network, Marcus and Veltara could sense the Devourers adapting to their tactics, concentrating their assault on the largest dimensional fractures around major population centers. They're targeting Earth and the Nexori homeworld simultaneously, the Rylan Rodriguez pair announced. If those fractures expand further, the dimensional barriers will collapse completely. Then we stop them, Marcus and Veltara said in unison, their voice carrying the authority of the entire network. All pairs coordinate for maximum dimensional manipulation. We're going to seal every fracture in the galaxy simultaneously. The effort required was enormous. Through their bond, Marcus felt the strain on thousands of linked minds as they reached across space to manipulate forces that existed beyond normal reality. The consciousness network that had begun as a tactical necessity had become something far more significant, a new form of life that combined the best aspects of both species. Dimensional barriers stabilizing, announced pairs throughout the network. Devourer entities are being forced back into their original dimensional layer, but the victory came at a cost. The massive effort required to seal the fractures had pushed the bonded pairs to their limits. Through the network, Marcus and Veltara could feel some of the newer bonds beginning to destabilize under the strain. Hold together, they broadcast to the entire network. We're stronger united than we ever were apart. Response was immediate. Instead of individual consciousness fighting for survival, the network adapted, with stronger bonds supporting weaker ones. The Rylan Rodriguez pair shared their stability with newcomers, and while the Santos Kethmar bond provided tactical coordination to pairs struggling with the dimensional manipulation. Final fracture sealed, the network announced in perfect unison. Devourer entities have been expelled from our reality. The silence that followed was profound. Across the galaxy, the tears in space that had threatened to consume entire civilizations slowly closed, the dimensional barriers restored to their natural state. The Devourer's assault had been repelled, but at a cost that would forever change both species. Network status report, Marcus and Veltara requested. All bonds stable. Came the reply from hundreds of linked voices. Neural integration complete. The network is now self-sustaining. As the immediate crisis passed, Marcus became aware of what they had accomplished. The neural linking process hadn't just created a tactical advantage, it had given birth to a new form of consciousness that transcended individual identity while preserving the essential characteristics of both species. Admiral Corvin, Marcus said, his voice now carrying harmonics that reflected his permanent bond with Veltara. The mission is complete. The Devourer threat has been eliminated. And the cost? Corvin asked, though his tone suggested he already knew the answer. The cost was everything we were, Veltara replied. The reward is everything we've become. Through the network, Marcus could feel the other bonded pairs coming to terms with their transformation. They were no longer purely human or purely Nexori, but something new, a hybrid consciousness that combined the strengths of both species while transcending their limitations. Captain Reed, Admiral Corvin said formally, "What are your orders?" Marcus looked at Veltara, seeing in her amber eyes the same mixture of exhaustion and triumph that he felt. Through their bond, he could sense the entire network waiting for direction. Thousands of linked minds ready to follow wherever they led. Our orders are to go home, Marcus replied. To both our homes. To show our people that what we've become isn't a loss of identities, the fulfillment of everything we were meant to be? And if they don't understand, Corvin asked. Then we'll help them understand, Veltara said, her voice carrying the wisdom of someone who had sacrificed everything for peace. The same way Marcus helped me understand that dignity and respect could exist between species. The same way I helped him understand that strength and compassion could coexist. As the combined fleets prepared to return to their respective homeworlds, Marcus reflected on the journey that had brought them to this moment. What had begun as a forced imprisonment had become the foundation for the greatest alliance in galactic history. No regrets? Veltara asked in their shared consciousness. Only one, Marcus replied. That it took the threat of extinction to bring us together. Then we'll make sure it never takes that much again, she responded. We'll make sure that what we've built here becomes the foundation for something greater. Through the network, Marcus felt the agreement of hundreds of bonded pairs. They had saved both their species from extinction, but more importantly, they had proven that unity was not just possible but natural. When beings chose to see beyond the boundaries of their own existence, the alien princess who had been forced into his bed had chosen to stay forever, not as a prisoner or a conquest, but as a partner in the greatest adventure either species had ever undertaken. And in that choice, she had helped him become something greater than he had ever imagined possible. As the fleet jumped to hyperspace, beginning the journey home, Marcus and Veltara stood together on the bridge of Station Epsilon 7, their bond, serving as proof that love could transcend species. That understanding could overcome fear, and that two beings from different worlds could become one without losing what made them unique. In the years that followed, the bonded pairs became the foundation for a new galactic civilization. Children born to human Nexori partnerships inherited the neural linking ability naturally, creating a generation that thought in terms of unity rather than division. The Devourer threat never returned, but the vigilance of the bonded network ensured that the dimensional barriers remained strong. Marcus and Veltara, as the first bonded pair, became the symbolic leaders of this new age. Their love story serving as proof that even the greatest enemies could become the closest allies. When they chose to see beyond the boundaries of their own existence, the galaxy would never be the same. It would be better.